1 in 4 people across the world suffer from a mental health disorder. So, statistically speaking, every single one of us in this room has either known, met, or suffered from a mental health disorder. It is our mothers, it is our brothers, it is our coworkers, it is our friends, and it is all across the world. In fact, the World Economic Forum estimates that almost 16 trillion US dollars is lost every year in productivity and associated costs because of this issue. Mental health matters. Mental health matters. We have come to accept that regardless of race, religion, gender, or status, mental health matters. Mental health matters to us, and that is why we are here today. So, what does mental health support look like today? Well, according to a study, on college campuses, only 10% of students actually know about the resources on campus. There are resources available, but sometimes it's hard to find them. Even more so, there is a huge stigma against mental health, as we know. People feel isolated, and people are scared to reach out to help. And even if they do make it to therapy, therapy is usually twice a month for about an hour each visit. That's 2 hours in therapy versus the 742 hours outside of therapy, and that's where life happens. So, what can we do to make mental health affordable, accessible, and effective? Welcome to Myndly. Myndly is a two-end solution. One is a mobile application created directly for the client, and the other is a web-based platform created for the therapist. We hope to engage both ends of the spectrum to make an effective treatment plan for the patient. So, this presentation will focus in on those who give help and those who need help. So, let's put a face to those who need help. Meet Betsy. Betsy is a pseudonym for a close friend of one of our team members. Betsy is your average go-getter, ready to tackle the world. But ever since moving high schools, when she was younger, she has suffered from anxiety. She has started to feel panic attacks in public. And when she moved on to university, she's been afraid to go to classes. Her grades have suffered. And she is feeling worthless and sad because of it. Her friends and family make her realize this has to stop. She needs help. And so she goes to a therapist. So what can we do for Betsy? How can we help our friend Betsy get better? Well, the first thing, Betsy can track her own progress and empower herself to set goals with her therapist. That way, outside of therapy, she can work on it and her therapist can be kept in the loop. Also, Betsy can find available resources, support groups, mental health facilities, anything that can help her get better. And finally, Betsy oftentimes feels alone. We all feel alone sometimes. But even so, with Myndly, Betsy will be able to anonymously connect with users in her area to reach out for support. Because when we can empower Betsy and those around her to empower themselves, we can help grow Betsy away from a therapist and into an independent person. So, let's meet Betsy's therapist. Betsy's therapists, like most therapists across the world, are incredibly busy. She sees almost 50 patients personally and has to keep track of what is going on. But mind you, she only gets to meet Betsy twice a month for 2 hours. And this means that Betsy's therapist has a hard time keeping Betsy coming to the appointments regularly and keeping track of her treatment plan and actually adhering to it, which results in longer therapy time, more expensive, as well as bad for Betsy. So what can Myndly do for Betsy's therapist? Primarily, we want to help Betsy's therapist map out a personal treatment plan for Betsy. And then we can help the therapist monitor her progress when she isn't in the office. The therapist can also receive analysis during daily check-ins where Betsy's mood and thoughts can be categorized and analyzed to be sent back in an insights report to the therapist. And finally, the therapist can manage all 50 patients within our platform and view the status of all the clients and receive customizable dashboards to better understand their own practice. So, Myndly is a SaaS business that will sell mainly to providers, including therapists directly, and mental health centers on universities. We hope to sell to therapist groups and university health centers and get real-time data from these users. and aggregate this data and end up selling it to NGOs, public health departments, and stakeholders who want to make the system better. Because at the moment, these decisions are based on personal opinions, personal thoughts. It's just objective. But with data, we can arm them to make better decisions and effective decisions and see what is happening in real time across their sphere. Now, we've done competitive analysis, and we've tried to understand who is out there. The behavioral health market is growing at a 14.7 CAGR, and it's continuing to grow as the discussion around mental health shifts. What we've seen is that many companies lie either too much client-oriented for personal consumer use or too much therapist-oriented for business practical use. We've also noticed that a lot of times they focus too much on the individual or too much on the community. We're trying to find the right balance. We're trying to engage every stakeholder to make it an equitable process to find out what works for Betsy and make her experience better. So who are we? We call ourselves the Dream Team. But really, we're five young leaders who are hell-bent on transforming how mental health is accessed. We are hell-bent on making it accessible, affordable, and effective. All of us have been touched by the effects of mental health at one point in our lives. We have seen it in our friends, we've seen it in our families, and sometimes we've seen it in ourselves. We have pertinent experience. We have business, technical, social development. But more importantly, we have the passion and determination to make this happen. Now, you may look at us and see that we're on the younger side of things. Yes, we are. But that empowers us. We're youth. We know the market. We know what the conversation is going to look like in 10 years. And if we don't act now, we're worried for what the future of mental health could look like. So what do we do after today, when we go home? Well, first we will continue developing our MVP that we're working on. And by November, we hope to host a pilot program with a university and see how it works. Then we hope to deploy our strategy to therapists and see how that works in the market. In fact, we hope to speak to as many therapists as we can, so if anyone's in the room, let us know. And finally, by August, we hope to run analytics and deliver it back to our stakeholders. So we hope that you can join us in reimagining mental health support. We want your mentorship, your advice, your social and financial capital, so we can make this vision possible. Thank you so much for your time.
Very good pitch. For me, the key issue here to success is security. So how do you want to share it? There was no mention about that, because obviously if that data goes out or comes in the hands of unintended, that will obviously influence the success of the entire ecosystem that you're trying to build. Do you want to comment on that, please?
Thank you very much. So at the beginning, for now, we are trying to test the product in the US market. We're currently engaging ourselves with a HIPAA compliance. And then on top of that, we are working with partners who are already HIPAA compliance, and then they have certificate to host those data. Most of the personal data, we are not going to keep most of the personal data, and most of the personal data that we are likely to keep, they are exempted in most of the HIPAA compliance. And on top of that, we are planning to have our infrastructure having layers and a couple of layers of security.
To what extent have you talked to therapists about this at this stage?
Cool, thank you for that, very good question. So we have been working with, we've talked to one psychiatrist and one psychologist recently from the universities in Oslo. And we've also been in touch with a number of other psychologists in our network. So we've had very good feedback from these. They're both, they support both the therapist side and the client side as well. And we do have some experience working, I have experience working in the mental health sphere as well. So we are aware that, and we've done a lot of research as well, so we're aware that this is something that will work as evidence-backed.
Last
question. I really like your positioning in a competitive arena. And I saw that you had one dimension that said that you had a good balance in terms of community. You didn't talk a lot about that, but I guess to really resolve these type of issues, you need support from people around you. How will the community aspect?
users to kind of get that support network if she's not feeling comfortable to go reaching out to her parents. And so in these daily check-ins that Betsy is receiving, when she reports having negative emotions, she'll actually be immediately saying, would you like to reach out to your support network? That she and her therapist have identified as members of her, her base, maybe a mom, or maybe a brother, or a friend that can kind of support her. And also, if she's in need of treatment, she'll be referred to 24/7 hotlines that are in her area.
Can I do like one quick one? So I've probably seen, I don't know, 1, 5, 10,000 pitches. Like, your delivery was probably in the top 5. So like, I think so we know, because we do a lot of pitch training, and for the benefit of everyone, why do you pitch so well? What's the secret?
Actually, this pitch was all 5 of us coming together and really, I just happened to say the words, but everything, all the preparation that we did together, that's what made me ready for today. And I think that's the only reason the presentation worked out so well, was because we have 5 geniuses, or all of this team. I don't know why we're flattering ourselves, but we have a good team that's kind of supporting me in the back. And I think that's what made the confidence shows, because I knew that I trusted every single one of these people to prepare me, and we did, I think.
Great job.
Very good.